There's a few of them, but I think one of my favorite scenes is of me and Alex at the bonfire. Because the lighting of the fire, the ambiance of like this really cool party at like a mine, like what is this? That cinematically, watching back the dailies and kind of checking and seeing what it is, was so beautiful, and it took my breath away. Like we got there and we planned everything out, kind of like we went to Lee's house, and we kind of did the blocking and directing and things, and then to show up that day and see how it all came to be, and the lighting and the flickering of the fire and how it looked like on his face and my face. And I was starstruck of myself. I was like, I didn't know I could look like that. Oh my God. But another scene that I really, really enjoyed was the funeral. I know that's kind of very interesting to say, but I really enjoyed the meeting of all of the characters, and it's at this such sweet moment, and it's bittersweet because of the fact that like his mom just passed, and the whole characterization of everybody. So those two were pretty cool. Getting everybody together, or the barn. Whenever I can't believe I forgot about the barn. Whenever, oh my God, that day, let me tell you something real quick. That day we were filming, and Liam is the name of Alex's stunt guy. So I believe that's his name. That could totally not be his name, and I will feel like such a jerk. I'm not gonna say his name. Alex's stunt guy had to fall and like boom and like smash into this, like, you know, there's straw, and we're like moving rocks out of the way to make sure that like everything's good. And we did that the day of the fight during the bonfire too, is we're all kicking rocks to make sure that whenever my boyfriend Sean, or Sarah's boyfriend Sean, comes up and kicks Alex from the back, we're sitting on that log. Oh my God, I died laughing saying that, because it's not supposed to be funny, but it's so funny to me. But yeah, so with seeing that and seeing Alex get wired up, and he was so ready for it. Like he's going, and he's up at the top, and he's standing there, and everybody's like on guard, like, Alex, don't actually slip and fall. Like, please don't actually slip and fall. Because during the takes, like, he'd really get up there and he wouldn't have some of the wires sometimes. And like Lee would be like, Alex, no, we get it. You can climb the ladder. Let's not do that. So it's been a really fun time filming with this whole crew. So I think those 3 scenes that I named were pretty dope. I didn't really have a say in whether or not I got the audition. I mean, I kind of just went in and did what I could, and did at most what I possibly could. That way I could walk away with this sense of like, I gave it 110%, and if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're in such, we weren't really in COVID lockdown, full lockdown at that time. But now looking back, it really, really was a blessing, because there's a lot of people who don't have jobs, and to be so lucky to be in that time to get a job and to just kind of go in and give it my all and walk away. You know what? Knowing deep down, be like, I got this. I know that I got this, but I'm going to still, you know, if I don't, I don't, and they'll go on and I'll go on, and kind of a thing. But what attracted me initially, I think, well, because you have to say yes to an audition, you're allowed to say no, but I loved how tough she was, because a lot of the times in like TV shows, you're always kind of, I feel like girls are always kind of taught from a young age to, very subliminally, we're never really told to shut up, unless it's sometimes, but Sarah really doesn't, she speaks her mind, and she doesn't give a hoot. She just says what she feels, and I think that's really important for our younger audience, and it's really like inspiring to me to play a character where me as Inde, I love speaking up about everything and anything possible, and to relate to a character that way and to be able to play that in a character, I really hope that the young audience kind of relates with that and knows that whatever you want to say is completely valid, and your feelings are valid, and the way that, you know, you're feeling them, somebody can tell you, oh, she's just being, you know, a bratty little teenager, she's rebelling, and she's this and she's that, but it's stemming from somewhere. And with Sarah and her family, every time that she rebels, every time that she fights, she's really fighting for something, and she's not just rebelling just to rebel. Sarah's, you know, she's just no, she's actually really fighting for something. And the way that Todd, who's, a man, like the way that he wrote Sarah and the conversations that we've had about her really just made me I have a huge respect for Todd because of the way that he wrote Sarah and the way that he told me a story about how in the very first episode, Sarah touches on the fact that she lost hope in herself and her town, and she just wanted all of that to end. And I think that whenever that thought of us ending our lives kind of comes into our brain, it's not because we really want our life to end. It's because we want the problems and the everyday issues and the weight that we constantly have to carry on our shoulders to end. And whenever Sarah's talking about that, she never says the word suicide. She never says the word kill herself or the sentence kill herself. She just says what she did, and she doesn't let it define herself. And she moves forward and she takes that step to be like, you know what? I was at a really low point in my life, but I'm actively fighting to get out of it. And I think that's what's really important, is every single day she's actively fighting, and sometimes physically fighting and sometimes verbally fighting, to bring that hope back into her life. And I really want people to find that in Sarah, that she's just fighting for hope, whether it's for herself or it's for others. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I love Sarah so much. So I talk about her for hours because, especially in this time where everybody's sitting at home alone, I know that I have really bad anxiety. I know that, we've all been through a lot, with the troubles of growing up, and just, especially my generation, with being the first generation to be on social media and to have, the YouTube generation, and really just pinpoint, especially young girls, like name one thing that a young girl can do without being made fun of. I got that from TikTok, but it really is true. We can't do anything without being nitpicked. And I really want it. I really want Sarah to kind of be someone that people can look up to and kind of find that strength and, like, you know what, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, and just kind of be whoever you want. There's only one you. And I think that we should all try and actively be that. And that's what Sarah's doing. So it's completely valid. So I think that's all that. And I'm really glad that you asked that question, because I kind of get really pissed off at the way that people are going about representation, whether that's with Latinos, whether that is with, non-binary or LGBTQIA. Like, there's just a lot that is really misconstrued and is really I'm very passionate about this, so I'm trying not to get angry. I think you should just write people. And I think experience comes with that, and conversations comes with that, because whenever you don't have conversations with people with an open mind to really understand who they are as people, like, I hated the feeling of checking a box on certain shows that I was on. And I knew that I was checking a box, and it really diluted what I felt to go to work. I was like, I'm very blessed to have this job. However, I have respect for myself. I don't want to, but then to kind of eat crow and be like, I'm going somewhere, and to be able to sit down and finally have this voice to sit here and say what I believe is ultimately why, I ate crow at that point in time. But just talk with people and really get to know people for who they are, because, I'm a girl who, it has a Mexican background, has an Australian background, but I present myself as indie first. And I think that that's what a lot of people are missing within representation, is that write roles for people and have people play those people. We're not, there's more Latinos who are more forefront with their traditions or have thicker accents, and then there's some Latinos who don't, and it doesn't dilute how Latino you are, or it's just how you were raised and how you present yourself. And there's a lot to go into that, but specifically I think that with representation, it really is just about meeting people and listening to their stories and not always having to be the one to kind of, I went through this, or just sit and kind of like listen. And that way you can start to understand where other people are coming from and not just see them for, what they identify as or what they are, front promoting, I guess is the way to say that. And kind of just write roles for people and not what could be a selling point, or like, oh, well, this would go to this audience because they're speaking Spanish, or there's, da, da, da. No, because I know, I mean, my Spanish isn't the best. However, I'm a Latino. So kind of it really is just going into my audition. There were 3 different ethnicities, and it really not shook me. It really kind of, in a very good way, being like, oh my God, there's just Sarah Cushing, the character. And then I'm walking in, and there's 3 visibly very different looking people going in for this character. And now that I've got the character, talking with Todd about, showing and what comes naturally to me, there's certain words in Spanish that comes naturally out of my mouth. Therefore, me and Eric Valdez will kind of pop off the mouth and kind of see, and adding, Sarah's 14, so she's going to have a quinceañera at some point whenever she turns 15. So really just solidifying the fact, I mean, I was looking at, I one day I was having the phone with my cousin Shania, and I was just like, there's not really quinceañeras in shows unless they're like there for the plot. Like, it's never just something to have as that. And so I called up Todd, and I was just like, hi Todd, we don't have this, and I'd like to have this conversation with you. And immediately he was like, I love that, like, let's have a different conversation whenever we have time to actually sit down and get it right, kind of a thing. And it really is such a breath of fresh air to just think of the character about how I want to play and how I dreamt it, and this is my dream, and this has always been what I want to do and how I want to do it, and then flow in what comes naturally. So I think that that's really important, especially for strong women. And not strong women are so multi-layered because there's a reason why they're strong. There's a reason why they're tough. I don't like the fact that, bitch is so, and I think Nicki Minaj said it right, is that whenever people talk about Wayne, they say boss, and that is so there. And then whenever they talk about her, she's like, I'm a bitch. And there's no negative connotation behind the word boss, but there is about the word bitch. And I think that, we are tough, and there's a reason why we're tough, and really multi-layered women, kind of breaking down those layers and really showing everything and being like, you know what, I am tough around this group of people because in the past these type of people have really made me feel a certain way, so I'm going to put up my guard here. I'm protecting my energy. That does not make me a bitch. It makes me have self-respect for myself and for my feelings and boundaries. So I think Sarah is a very big role model in boundaries, and she's only 14, and going through a lot kind of puts you in a different mindset. And so growing up and maturing at a very young age, you kind of have to put down those boundaries. So I think that I can tease for Sarah that, young kids and, oh my God, I don't really know, because there's a lot that I'm not allowed to say. But I think that what I should say is that Sarah is a person that is willing to explore as much as she possibly can. And I think that she always has an open mind to things, and she's very perceptive. So I think as her story specifically goes along, she's a very smart girl. She's a very smart girl. So not a lot of things will blow past her. And I think that it's really important for, her to kind of stay on her toes and make sure that she will always stand up for what she believes in. And whether that creates problems, then that creates problems. But she will always stand up for what she believes in. Art imitates life, and it freaks me out. And I called my mom and I told her who the character was, and she goes, wow, really? I said, yep. So I think that Sarah and I have a lot in common, and I'm glad that we do, because then I can pull from personal experience and really be able to talk in interviews like this and possible fans that I can meet, and we can really, have a one-on-one about experience, and I can talk personally about a lot of things that I've been through and why I'm able to either justify it or really just apply it to Sarah. Very quick to fight. um we both definitely have that, and I think that we both really love the idea of love. I think that that's something so sweet. And to, of course, in the premiere, there's a little bit of a tease based on, what's gonna happen. And I think that both Sarah and I love the idea of love and romance and what could possibly happen. I think we definitely do have that in common, but there's a lot that has to be um, unveiled about Sarah that yet I don't even know because it's currently being written. So I think that we'll just have to wait and see what else I differ and what else I have similar from her in future episodes that are in the wind that have yet to be written. There is, before the show came out and before I got really busy, I would go on Instagram and I would invite people in, and I kind of would just click and then wait. And it was really interesting gauging their reactions and really kind of just seeing them react. So I was just like, oh, I'm a person, and you're like freaking out. Like but I just think the way that being on 13 and kind of the message that that show sends, and hearing the reactions in which they had and the stories that they told me, they kind of, there's not one that comes to mind that is really specific from the rest, because they really all shocked me with how personable they got, and how in their own way, their own, like, they're fighting it. And there's a couple fans that like I'll keep in touch with just because they've been there since the very beginning, and I really like to make sure how they're doing mentally and how they're doing physically, and really making sure that they're okay, because a lot of people don't have a lot of people, and so social media does kind of open up those gates. So yeah, it's been beautiful kind of talking with people like that, and I can't wait for things whenever COVID's done. Comic Con's a really big one, and being able to do signs and really meet people and have the that really good 30 seconds, and then kind of, whether or not we see each other at the rest of the panel, just I want to invite people to kind of know that there's a lot to talk about, and I'm somebody that they're able to talk to, and whether or not I have a lot of time is completely up to the day, but I will try and give as much time as I possibly can because it's important. The first thing that comes to mind is Friday Night Lights whenever they say, um, I think it's clear eyes, clear heart, can't lose, or something like that. Um, and I think that kind of correlates with the story with Superman and Lois, because it is, I mean, Todd definitely pulled inspiration from Friday Night Lights and the grounding and the family aspect of that. Um, but I think that for Superman and Lois, it's family first. I think that family first is something that we're really touching on, in the fact that Superman and Lois do have kids, and the Cushings do have kids, and really solidifying that family is really important, and to kind of fight for a family. Do you know how gagged I would be if Superman and Lois showed up in Hunter x Hunter? Oh my god, because I would want to meet Kiowa. I just want to be him as a person. um Yeah, honestly, Hunter x Hunter, and I know for a fact that that would be ridiculous because they have, their Nen. I wonder if Superman would be able to survive in Hunter x Hunter. Harley Quinn. That is my bisexual queen. That is my girl. Because again, that multi-layered strong woman, and how like she just really, I mean, some say that she's even crazier than the Joker. She's even kind of more off the top than the Joker. And I think that um oh my god, Harley Quinn, and just what a Harley Quinn in is, and mischievous, and just getting what she wants at whatever. Oh my god. I never read the book. I had some friends that did because they read it in school for kind of like a suicide awareness. Um, but yeah, never read the book. But I remember being in high school and on like I had somebody's birthday party, and it's really important to recognize that you never really know what people go through because some people don't show it because again they don't want to let it define them. So it's really important to really be sensitive. And I remember being at this party and they were kind of just talking about, you know, that one scene that is very triggering that they ultimately took out. Um, and kind of how it's romanticizing and whether it's not romanticizing. And I think that what kind of slips away during that phone call, or not that phone call, during that conversation, is the fact that it starts a conversation. So it starts that between a mother and their son, or their daughter and their father, and within the family, or just a trusted adult. Because I mean, something that I highly recommend for a lot of people is to watch The Social Dilemma and to really watch the effect, especially older generations, to really understand what my generation and younger generations are really having to go through whenever it comes to social media and the pressure and the peer pressure. Because then it's like my feed made me feel this way. What I saw made me feel this way. Therefore, that's the way I should feel. Therefore, I'm going to try and make another person feel like that. And ultimately, it's not that person's fault. It's kind of the way that things are being shoved down our throats, especially young people. I don't want to just say young girls because a lot of young guys also have to go through it, and a lot of young people who are really just finding themselves and finding out what they identify as, like as. Um, so it's opened a door for a conversation. I think that's really important. And not really knowing that this is where my career was going to lead me when I was a sophomore in high school, um, and watching the show and really just, I love, me and Alicia Bell are still friends, and loving, even before we were friends, the way that she played her character, and the intensity and emotional range in which she played her character to really get across, this is how people feel. This is, and it kind of trickling down with everybody that's on that show. So it really opened up a lot of doors, and I hope that everybody who made that show is really kind of proud with the conversations that they've created. Something else to say, how true they played anxiety, how true they played depression, how true they played those thoughts and the spiraling of the thoughts in their head, especially during Thursday in season 4, where Clay is really talking to people who aren't there. And that's true because, I mean, in our day-to-day lives, people and that negative kind of impact that they've had on us really stays with us. So technically, their energy really stays with us. So to kind of let that go and what that means. But something that I do want to give kudos to is Alex Garfin, who plays Jordan Kent on this show, is that he is playing anxiety in such a true way. So that carries over to this show, is just that he's not straying away from what it really feels like to have a panic attack, what it really feels like to kind of lose your mind, and how truthfully he's playing that. So I do want to touch a little bit on that because that is something to really be proud of. To trust myself. I think that whole time stepping into a show that's already solidified, that already has its feet up and running, that technically doesn't really need this character to come in, but I mean, I'm going in anyways. That I really learned to trust myself through Estella de la Cruz, because she, again, just like Sarah, she kind of like really does speak up for what she believes in, and is trustworthy of Jessica, and when she kind of really shouldn't be at the very beginning. But yeah, through playing her, I learned to trust my instincts as an actor, and to really just allow myself to focus on what the character is, and really giving it the truth that she needs, and to trust that what I'm doing is correct. So I learned I learned a lot about myself during that time. I had this idea that I told Tim, who plays Monty, I was like, at the prom, you're kind of dancing with everybody except your little sister. Like, why not have me dancing with Devin and then turn the camera And then all of a sudden it's Tim, it's Monty. And having her saying a moment of like him saying, you need to let me go, like you have to let me go. And then having her be able to have that storyline, be like, okay, she's letting him go, she's moving on into herself, because then it ties into the graduation scene of her being so happy. And I'm like, oh, why are you so happy? Yeah, I really, really wanted that to be a thing. And going into a show where everybody kind of, again, is solidified and has been on the show for 3 years, there's a lot that I learned. And especially not from them directly telling me, by just the way that they acted, learning from, I mean, going on the set and seeing, Dylan Minnette and the way that he would treat everyone and the way that he had conversations with me. And same thing with Alicia Bowe, the way that she had conversations with me and the way that, she listened and taught me a lot. And she actually taught me a lot about trusting myself and kind of respecting myself. And we had really good girl talks, and just seeing the way that they treated each other and the way that they treated the crew really taught me a lot and made me feel really good with going on to, my first real like, thing, and kind of carrying that on and really knowing that treating everybody with the same respect and kindness, no matter what their status is really important. So yeah, it was really nice being on that set. 2020 was the year that rocked my boat and sank it multiple times. And I think I actually just had this conversation with somebody the other day, but I sat in quarantine and I told myself, I was like, you're gonna get through it, but something that I told myself, I go, you're allowed to feel like hell for this amount of quarantine. You can, go to the depths, you can spiral, you can kind of just get it all out of your system. And I read a lot of books. One of my favorite books that I read so far is The Four Agreements. And if nobody knows what that is, it's kind of just pillars to really create a foundation on, and learning that not to take anything personally. And I think that's really important in this business, and learning that technically nothing really is about you, that, it's everybody and their own demons. And I learned a lot about myself during quarantine. I learned that, again, I need to not be so harsh. I think I can be my biggest critic, as everybody else in the world is. So really kind of just being like, you know what, Indy, I'm here for a reason, and I have a lot to offer, and not to allow anybody into that. And I mean, hey, I've gone very far and I've done a lot at my age, and I want to be able to always have that confidence in myself, and I never want to lose that. So during quarantine, I really sat with myself and I was like, you're going in. I mean, I'm here by myself in Canada, my family's back in the States. I'm just being like, you know what, let's make one hell of a trip out of this. And really seeing it through the eyes of like not kindness, positive lens always, and not being very mean to myself, because I think that's very easy to kind of be like, not easy, that's not what I meant, but I meant that it's harder to kind of keep on pushing. And I think it's really important to keep on pushing. So I learned, I kind of tore myself the hell down, and I, little by little, brick by brick, I was just like, come on, you got this. And then I'm now, a lot better. So I think that everybody kind of taking that time, and I highly recommend The Four Agreements and The Age of Absurdity, because it kind of talks about social constructs and kind of what is and isn't real and cool and all that jazz. There's a lot that I can talk about it, but I learned to kind of stand on my own 2 feet and to know that my validation is the only validation that I really need. And I think that's really cool, whether that's bitchy or not. And I think that confident women sometimes get a bad rep, because it's just like, oh, she's so full of herself. And it's like, why would I be full of anybody else? Self-love to me means the fact that you put yourself first. And I think that that's really important, to put yourself first and to really focus on what you're doing, because it's your life and you're the only one in it day in and day out. And you're the only one that is really have to live with the mistakes or the decisions that you make. And I think it's really important to love yourself through those, and to know that everything's a learning lesson, and not everything has to allow the change and evolution is really important, to love yourself through that. So yeah, I think self-love is very imperative in order to evolve and grow. I've been wanting to crochet. I mean, I crocheted whenever I was a kid because I just need to move my hands a lot, and it actually helps me focus. And so I've just been crocheting. So that's a project that I've been doing. Twitter, I'm not very active, but when I am, it's a sight to see. It's very funny. Instagram, I love to kind of use as a way to express myself, which of course it is. But I love it. I mean, I love painting and drawing and doodling and all that stuff, and I kind of see Instagram as an extension of that. So I'll post like little videos. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, I think those are the only two. I have a secret TikTok, so if anybody finds that, good on you. I was like, you know what? If you find this, you find this. And if you don't, then I'm sorry, you're not on the algorithm that I am. Therefore, I don't want you on my algorithm. But yeah, no, it's I think TikTok's really cool because I do like the personability, the one-on-oneness I get from, you know, having a private TikTok, and whoever finds it, and the way that it's no pressure from and on me. Because I mean, I feel some pressure on Instagram being like, you have to be a certain way and post this and everything has to be aesthetic, blah, 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 blah. But on TikTok, I can really just post my cat, just whatever comes to mind off the top, no pressure.